If you're looking for some straight up marketing advice that's super chilled and also a bit of a laugh, then grab yourself a drink and get ready for Marketing and Margaritas, a podcast that makes marketing entertaining. Brought to you by Rebel Nation, direct from regional Queensland.
Hello and welcome to Marketing and Margaritas. I am joined today by the absolutely fabulous James from Cloud3. So James is actually in Townsville, so that's why we're doing this on Zoom today. I'm really hoping that the audio and visual and everything still works out okay, because this is the first time we've done it like this. But if this works out, we'll definitely be doing more. Maybe with James, maybe with other people. We'll see how we go. We'll see how he performs. Today's his test, his practice, and if he passes, he's allowed back. But today we're going to be talking about, we're doing a deep dive on optimizing your website for conversions. So we did a shorty episode on this, like a soundbite one for episode 83. And I basically just ran through really quickly different ways you can optimize your website. Now, James is actually like a WordPress developer for 50 million years, etc. I've worked with him for ages. He's extremely talented at what he does. And so he listened to it. I'm not sure why, because he fucking knows it all anyway. And he wrote back to me saying that he was actually surprised that he enjoyed listening to it. I don't think he meant like bad as in like, Jade, you're a piece of shit and I thought it'd be garbage. But more as like, I'm going to be listening to something I already know about. He was like, actually, it was really interesting, to go through it, except I wanted to hear more. So I was like, fantastic. Come on the podcast and we can talk about more. And then everyone can hear someone else talking instead of me for a change. Hi, James. How are you doing after that big monologue intro?
I'm so good. You know what? I wanted to listen to it because I know that you guys are a marketing background, so it's really, really interesting to hear what I do from a different perspective. It's also really good to make sure that everyone's on the same page, so that way it was listening to the same kind of message, but from a different background, and that was really, really interesting. So I got so much out of it, and it reminded me of the things that the things that you forget that people don't just know. You're like, oh yeah, of course we need to remind people of that kind of stuff. So that's the reason why I love listening to all of your podcast episodes. Come on.
Please keep laying it on. I'll lap that shit up. Like, you go for it. I think that's one of the things too. Like, that's what I love about with the podcast is that yes, we do more advanced stuff and everything every now and then. But a lot of what we're doing, because it's still only like a couple of years in or whatever, is basics of stuff. And for me, I find that so interesting, even though I've been doing this for nearly 20 years, because you just forget shit. It's like, it's your livelihood. It's what you do every single fucking day. And yet it's that old saying of like, you've forgotten more than other people will, ever learn sort of thing or whatever. But yeah, it's nice to recap on stuff and kind of go back to the basics, because I think whether it's marketing or just business in general, there's so many times that we can just overcomplicate things and blow things out. And it's like, if you actually take things back to the basics, you're like, when you do those things, then, business runs better, your marketing runs better. So it is actually important, I think, as a business owner to do it as well. Man, I'm fucking waffling today. That is just like a whole random tangent again. I'm so sorry.
No, not at all. It actually makes complete sense. And you're right. I'm going to try and get us on track. But you're 100% right, because it's all about setting up a foundation, like both business generally and websites. It's about setting up a foundation that's strong, but also it's the kind of thing which you can't just set it and forget it. It's the kind of thing that needs maintenance long term. So it's good to always revisit those kind of foundational skills and be like, oh yeah, we did all of that stuff, but we need to be making sure that we're doing it again.
You making all of my ramblings make sense. You can stay. I'll keep you around. I like this. I can basically be a complete dag and then you make it sound like it's on point. It's a great partnership.
I know the reason why you're saying what it is that you're saying. I know it actually has a point. It sounds sometimes in your head like it doesn't, but I'm sure it does.
To me. Glad it does to you. Fucking hope it does to other people. Okay, so background first off. James, I'm not going to say your last name because last time you said I pronounced it wrong. Cashin Lozelle?
Yeah, it's James Cashin Lozelle. That's right.
Cashin Lozelle.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Okay. I say Cashin. I think that's where I go wrong. Cashin Lozelle. Okay, what is it that you do?
Broadly, I do everything in the web. Anything to do with like the digital kind of space is a thing we do. So When we get into the weeds, we do websites, we do software, we do plugins, we talk to APIs, but also we do like branding, logos, anything digital, really. But to bring it down to the bare basics of everything, I just say I build websites. Really cool, interesting. What's that?
You do app development as well, don't you?
We do a little bit of app development. It's something that we're kind of in a weird place with, but it is something that we do as well. Absolutely. Especially to do with like we do a lot more web apps and things like that, which is why I kind of just talk about like development generally. We do programming and software and stuff like that. But when I say it like that, it sounds software and programming sounds really like complicated. When I go, no, we do websites. And that way people can come to me with their ideas and be like, oh yeah, that's a thing we do. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we can facilitate that happening.
And so when did you get into website/tech development, etc., and why?
I've been doing this for, I just say over a decade now. So because it's easier than counting, it's probably close to 15 years. I got into it because my husband lives and breathes software, as you know. You've met the man.
That's why you're
Exactly.
I thought that's the answer.
Well, this is it. Like he lives and breathes it. He loves it. He's passionate about it. And that kind of passion rubs off on people. And it's the kind of thing where I was constantly going, hey, what does that mean? What, like at the end of every day, every couple says, how was your day? I'm the kind of person who goes, why was it hard? What did you do? What is it what does that mean? And so eventually, while he was great at explaining it, I was like, I like to do a little bit more research so that we can properly converse. Like that way, it's not him just explaining it like I'm a 5-year-old every single time. And then over time, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool and interesting. He comes from a technical background, and it was cool to learn that stuff. And I'm more of a creative background, and being able to go, oh, I can use these skills creatively. That's really interesting. So I kind of came on board to kind of help him create things. And then we kind of partnered with other creatives so that we could keep building kick-ass stuff.
Now you're running the business and he's piloting.
Yes, that's exactly
your
it.
husband's a pilot. It just sounds so like romantic or something.
And honestly, it's funny because he's the first person to tell anyone. He'll be able to drop it off in any single conversation. I'm always happy to be the first person to mention that I'm the wife of a pilot. But if he's in the room, he'll mention it before I am. So absolutely.
To be fair, if I was a pilot, I would be dropping that bomb all over the place too.
Exactly. That's right. So it's the kind of thing where he started with all of the skills and then I slowly took on the stuff that he wasn't interested in. Stuff like things that he just never really clicked with, things like design, client liaison, and stuff like that. And as I did that, to really kind of understand a project and what a person wants to achieve, you need to be able to know the background, the kind of technology behind it, and how you're going to achieve that. So I kind of came and put those two pieces together. And that's why I'm able to like take on the business and do it all myself now. So yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So we're going to be jumping into your top tips for optimizing websites for conversions. So are you starting off with the juicy one?
Okay. So like I said, I come from a broad background and we're a broad company. So this is not just, hey, you move this button to this place and you're going to get website tips. Like things are going to work now and you're going to earn so much money. It'd be amazing if that were the case. So we're going to start right at the very, very beginning, which is SEO. So because if your website can't be found, then you can't get any conversions.
Anyway, yeah, basically.
Exactly. So SEO is search engine optimization. Say it out loud just in case anyone doesn't know. And so it's making sure that you've got enough content on your website. You're making sure that it has the keywords that you want to be found for. So it's making sure that, let's say you're launching a brand new website, you're going, okay, who are my competitors? What are the search terms people are looking for? How am I going to have that content across my website? Has to be human, it has to be natural, and it has to be repeated.
Not actually, even though we're writing for search, we need to not write for search. We need to write for people.
That's exactly it. Because it needs to be repeated, but it needs to be repeated in a natural way. Because if you have the same sentence, marketing and SEO again and again and again, then Google's going to say, that's not actually helpful to anyone, because it's not. And Google is smart enough to go, hey, we want to serve websites that help people. So your website should be aimed towards helping people. And you do that by having the content that is what you do, and making it so that it's easy to be found. So that's SEO, making sure that you have enough content on across all of the pages. The amount of people who are like, oh yeah, I do like 50 services, and they're like, oh, I'm going to write 10 words about each service. I'm like, no, if you want people to find it, then you have to assume that people don't know about your industry. I'm really good with talking with a lot of like contractors, electricians, plumbers, things like that, who are like, oh, everyone knows what it is that I do. And I'm like, oh, I absolutely don't. Like, I 100% don't. I know when I need a plumber, but I don't know what to search for to get that. I don't know what it is. It's not until an issue comes up specifically that I start looking for those terms. So that's why they need to kind of preempt that and make sure that they're talking about their services in such a broad and general way, so that way they're found across multiple keywords rather than just plumbing Townsville or plumbing Mackay.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's really, really important. Tying in with search engines is making sure that you're regularly updating your website. So making sure that you have
my ears.
Which is something that I know that you harp on at me about, and it's something that's really, really, really easy to forget and to look over. But it's a kind of thing.
Recently, but yes, that was quite funny. The website developer whose website was like not pointed. Yeah. Anyway, we won't go into it, but it was a bit.
Exactly, but it's the kind of thing where having enough content, the minimum amount on every page needs to be 150 words. The magic number is about 300. And look, you can go over that, but like that's kind of my magic number that we've found works really well for search engines and people. But what I say to people is, even if you can't launch with a full amount of content, launch with the minimum 150 on it. And that way, once a month, you sit down, you write an extra couple of paragraphs on every page, and then you're done. Like, it means you're really feeding the search engines exactly what they need. So
not caught in that trap of like their website being perfect when it goes live. And it's like, what is ever perfect in life? Like, why do you think that your website will be perfect? Not that it means like you can do a half-assed job and be like, nah, fuck it, let's put it live. Like, obviously you want it to be good, but I just think people need to get out of that mentality of it's finished and then it goes live, because it's never finished.
It's, as a person, I'm growing and changing. My business is constantly growing and changing. And that's exactly what your website should be. And sure, we want to serve the best versions of ourselves. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, but we want to make sure that it's all going out there and it's growing and changing with us. So that's tip number one, to do everything to do with kind of SEO, kind of summed up there.
That was a good juicy one. That was a nice starting one. I liked that.
Exactly. Okay. Next one is, this is the first one that people come to me when they're like, hey, people can't find me. Search engines aren't finding me. What's an issue? I need my website to be faster. And this is one of those kind of nebulous things that come to web developers and tech guys, where people are like, I don't know, just make it faster and it's going to work. And it's not. And look, you can 100% do things to make it faster. But this is why it's really, really important to kind of, we build everything up from the ground up, considering exactly that. So we're making sure that we're building websites that are optimized for speed. A lot of the kind of page builder websites nowadays are pretty good. Things like Squarespace are really awesome for it, but there are some less great page builders which just allow you to put up a lot of real crap, which will slow your website down, and it really does make things very, very difficult. That's not, WordPress is exactly the same. You can build a theme builder website, which is going to have like so many add-ons that every page loads slowly, and it's a real pain. But that's why it's really important to think of it from the start. Hey, we want a fast website. How do we go about building that? But then ongoing, it's making sure that if you're uploading videos, for example, let's make sure that if you want them to autoplay, they're not going to have sound. They're only going to be certain sizes, both like lengthwise and file size. Images, making sure that we're not 4K images are really, really sexy and cool, but they're not really helping us too much. It's all about making sure that they're appropriately sized. And I know we all have Retina displays across all of our devices now, but there are recommended sizes, and there are plugins that allow us to downsize things.
Well, we all have, did you say retina displays?
Yeah.
What the fuck is a retina display?
Your iPhone and stuff like that. iPhone, MacBook. I'm an Apple guy, you know this. So I'm like, it's basically all the tiny pixels. It means we're no longer looking at pixels anymore. We're looking at things that are much smaller than that.
Oh, right. Because retina is like a part of your eye. So I'm like, what do you mean it's eye display? Like retina display, like fucking Apple. Jesus Christ. All right. Next tip.
Branding, it works. That ties directly into kind of call to actions and things like that. So when we're going in with things like sliders, for example, if you need to have one, and I would try and convince everybody not to if they really can, because statistically, you know the statistics behind this, but I will repeat them again. Like, it's less than 25% of people see the second slide in a slider, and then the drop off to the third slide is like 5% or less than that.
So many people still love them.
Look, we're in the regions.
A banner, and it'll look really amazing. You'll have like some overlay and shit, like a call to action. You're like, that's sexy as fuck. But, it's just going to like hit people in the face and be really cool. And they're like, yeah, so can we like do that, but like have a slider so we can have a bunch of images? No, you're not allowed.
Well, this is exactly it. So ideally, because you're adding overhead for the page to load. So it means you're slowing things down at that point. And then we know that already you're having a less effective message. If you need to have a slider, making sure that you have the same kind of call to action across multiple of them. The only reason I could see a slider really being necessary is if you need to kind of show movement on your website. It's to kind of draw attention, but there are so many better ways to do that. Do it with both the design, do it with video. If a lot of realistically, a lot of websites are doing video now, and it's really important that you make sure that your video is specifically, it's kind of visual. We're not putting in like a lot of words or anything like that because you can't read those words as far as search engines go. So using it for aesthetics. Yeah, exactly. All right. So fast websites. This goes back to knowing your audience. Realistically, we're both in the regions. Townsville has the best internet in Australia. So we're really lucky that we don't kind of have to factor too much for anyone on desktops. We have a really, really great mobile reception as well. So everything is really, really fast. But even once you start going out of town by 40 minutes, things start slowing down. So if you're going to have customers that are in the regions who are on mobile devices, we need to be factoring in how long it is that those pages are going to take to load up. Because like we said before, search engines, if they can't find you, then there's no point in having the website. The next thing is if your website takes a long time to load, then again, it's the same as not having a website because people are going to get bored. They're going to assume it's broken. Exactly. They're going to move away. So
mobile, like desktop, you might be like, have something sitting there while you're doing something else or whatever. Like, I mean, especially for those of us, I suppose, who have the dual screens, which, you're seeing more and more kind of thing anyway. It's being more common in offices or whatever. But yeah, so you might open some few things up and be doing your email. So you're not necessarily watching, but on your mobile, when you click something, you're literally just watching that thing load up. You know what I mean? So it's like, and your device has like so much less processing power than a desktop would anyway. So it's like, that really is optimizing for mobile as like when it comes to your site load.
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly what you said. It's optimizing for mobile. So it's not only optimizing the speed for it and the message, but it's also making sure that you've already defined what it is that you want out of your website. So we're talking generally and overall about how to increase conversions for your website. Let's go back to the beginning of what that actually means. And this was something that you mentioned to me and I never really thought about. It is like, hey, what do you want out of your website? Like, do you want calls? Do you want emails? Do you want, and what does that look like? And I was like, oh, of course that makes sense. Like I don't want anyone to call me. I want people to email me. So make it really, really easy. And that's the same with, especially on mobile, going back and making those call to actions, making it easy for people to call you, making sure that, you have your phone number in the header, at least on mobile, so that people aren't scrolling through and looking. Because one of my tips later on talks about making sure that we've got padding and things like that to make it look sexy on desktop. But people don't want to be scrolling on your mobile forever if they can't find it within, literally seconds. I think it's 6 to 12 seconds.
Attention spans are so fucking short, man. And like whatever the average is, like you see some say 8 seconds, some say 11 seconds. Some things for socials are like 3 seconds. Like I think it depends on what device and platform or whatever you're looking at as to what that average time frame is or whatever. But yeah, it's fucking short. Wherever it is, it's short.
Exactly. That's it. So we need to capitalize on that. We need to make sure that as soon as your website loads up, it's loading up quickly, and the information people are looking for is there, readable and ready to go. Yeah. That goes to making it easy to contact people generally. So when we're talking about what it is you're looking for, if you want phone calls, then yeah, sure, make sure you have it in the header. But throughout the website, like we said, websites nowadays, they have padding. I love a website that scrolls. It looks so aesthetically pleasing. And I'm the first person to say, hey, we need a lot of content on there. You want to be found by search engines, but you don't want to overwhelm people. People aren't going to, when they get there, let's say that you've actually convinced them to read your content. You don't want them getting lost in the content and forgetting the message. And the message at the end of the day is, hey, I'm a business and I want you to contact me so that I can help you. So this is all about making sure that your call to actions are repeated through your content. I love a sticky menu. I love a nav that comes down with you so that way it's always there, but also having it peppered throughout the content so that as people are naturally reading, it's there and it's a reminder that at any point in time, anything they don't understand within your content, you're there, you're available, you're ready for this. So
it's like that's the logical next step as well. So it's like if someone is going to go to your services page, you might have a dual, button at the bottom where it's kind of like you can contact us or you can check out our portfolio for examples of work that we've done. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like, it's kind of just thinking when you're on that, like, why do people go to the about page? Or they're trying to get a better understanding of like who you are and like what your credibility is, what your experience is, what your story is or whatever. So where would they then want to next look? Or maybe they want to see the actual work that you do now that they've known more about. So it's kind of like, what's that next logic jump? And it's like, so that's where you have like your main nav, your nice, simple, home, about, contact, and then services, case studies, portfolio, blog, whatever. But then in your blog, that's where you can, you might actually do something that's more of a deep dive on a particular service or something, a particular element of it. And then that can link through from the services page saying like, I want to learn more about X, Y, Z, can go to that. So those calls to action are definitely for like the contact part, but it can also just be kind of drawing them in deeper and getting them more engaged with you and stuff as well.
Yeah, so this goes to two things. Number one is cross-linking. Cross-linking is really, really important for SEO, both internally and externally. So we always assume that people are going to have their socials up there and that they're going to link across to those trusted websites so that way we can increase the credibility of your website, but also cross-linking within your website really helps for both usability, navigability, and also it helps with your score as far as SEO goes as well. But you're right, like this
dwell time and stuff, or not, what I mean, like that engagement rate, etc. Like it's because you're giving people a reason to be there. And I think too, like I know we've spoken to clients where they're like, we don't want to have a heap of content on like a heap of words on there because no one reads anything anymore. And it's like, no, you are right, but you're also wrong. Like people don't read websites, they scan them. So
yes,
you still need to have a certain amount of content there that they can scan through so that you don't fucking look like you're just some weird backyard job or whatever. Like you need to look legit, but then it's making your content scannable as well, with your subheadings and your bullet points and your graphs and whatever else you can.
Yes, that's exactly. And again, that's super important for SEO. It's SEO ties in with usability. Realistically, it's making sure that it's readability and it's easy for people to exactly that scan through the content. But also, like cross-linking, it goes back to people like, oh, I don't want to write all of this content that's not going to be used for anyone. You're like, well, no, make the content usable for people. Make it so that it is relevant for people. Like, I know nothing about plumbing. Have a page that explains what it is that the plumber is going to come out and do, because that's the kind of thing which yeah, you don't necessarily read in an emergency when you need a plumber. But if I need a plumbing job done, like I need a new bathroom, then that's the kind of thing where I go, all right, I need to
This is
know.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's what that cross-linking goes to. So you go, yeah, a little bit about them. Yep, I trust them. What do they do? Yep, these are the services. Great. What does that service actually entail? Great. Let's cross-link over into the blog for it. So it's really, really helpful like that.
And I think too, like, I know for me, plumbing's a perfect example. Like, I don't fucking want to know how to do plumbing, to be a plumber, whatever the term for that is. Like, I don't need to know about plumbing myself, but if I go in there, I can see that they've got different articles about how to do this, how to optimize that, how to improve water flow, or whatever the fuck it is that plumbers do. And I'm like, okay, these guys obviously know their shit. You know what I mean? I don't need to read it so that I can understand it. I can just see it and go, all right, you obviously understand this. Like, you're all across this. You're not just someone, again, like, it just adds into that credibility, that authority, that you actually know what you're doing. And therefore, I don't have to worry about anything at all because I know you're just going to take care of things for me.
This is exactly it. But it's also like, it's making it so that the stuff that you have out there is going to be helpful to people. So yeah, we don't need details of how to clean out U-bends or anything like that. That's me stretching my plumbing knowledge. Oh yeah.
But I'm impressed.
But what we do need to know is like how to not over tighten our taps so that we're not wearing through our washers regularly, because that means I don't have to have a plumber out every 6 months. I can change my own washers. I know at least this much. So,
oh God, I didn't even know. You totally lost me.
but it's the kind of
that's too much. I thought you were meant to make them tight.
No, and this is the thing. This is the kind of thing which people over tighten their taps and they use the wrong washers, and then that's the kind of thing that causes cracked seals, which then causes those leaky taps. Whereas if you use a soft turn, I think it's something like a quarter turn at the end, like that's it. But this is the kind of thing which I have read across multiple plumbing websites now, and those are the people that I trust. I know that I believe in them as plumbers, rather than me having to watch 700 YouTube videos, all of who argue with each other. I can go, all right, well, this is a person who obviously knows what they're doing. They're local and they have that kind of information. And then when I need help, I'll trust them to come out. So it's all about building trust.
Wow, I'm learning so much from this podcast in ways I didn't even imagine.
Oh yeah, marketing margaritas plumbing. Yeah.
That's going to make a great reel.
All right.
Next time.
I think, you know what? My last major.
Not always that your notes are on the side either, by the way. Like, that was so fucking subtle. Like, kudos to you.
just me focusing off in the distance. Yeah, not at all. Right. Look, all of that kind of stuff for me makes a lot of sense as far as making sure you have content, making sure that you're updating it, making sure that it's relevant, you're easy to contact. All of that kind of stuff matters. The last most important thing, I think, is analytics. And analytics, if you ask me, I'm not a math guy. So once you start looking at numbers, I go, boring, who cares? But once you look deeper into look, I can be honest about it, it's fine. But it's looking at what's beyond the numbers, because that's what it is. Those numbers actually make up people. So it's checking those analytics to go, all right, which of these pages are working? Which of these pages aren't? So kind of things you're looking for is if you have 300 words on a page, you have 500 words on a page, and people are only staying for 4 seconds, then you know that page doesn't work. If you're getting hits to that page and they're leaving, then you go, what can we do because it could still be good content. I'm going to assume that if you've gotten to the point of putting the content on your website, you think it's good and you think it's actually going to help people. Because if you don't think of those things, it shouldn't be on your website. Like, you're wasting everyone's time.
Like, it might be useful to look at it from the lens, or even and I'm always loath to say get someone else to have a look at it and give your opinion, because that could be a whole other can of worms you open. But in the sense that sometimes I know, for me, for example, if I'm explaining something marketing-y, I might unintentionally go way too high level sort of thing. And whereas people might need something a lot simpler. So it's sort of like, that content that you have on that page might actually need to be broken down more, or simplified, or made more visual, or whatever. Like, yes, it might just need a bit of improvement, but it could also be like, oh, well, maybe you've gone too far too soon. like maybe we need to draw it back a little bit and make it a bit simpler for people.
That's exactly it. Like I have two kinds of clients. I have the one side of things. I have people when I say 300 words, they go, how am I ever going to write 300 words about this? What am I going to? And those are the really easy people to deal with because you're like 300 words, 6 paragraphs. You and I can talk about that. We can literally write it down. No problem. It's people on the other end of the spectrum who are like, how am I going to talk? Engineers are my favorite. Engineers are, because they're so passionate, which is really, really cool. They love what they do. It's bridges and roads, which are very important. I am aware they're very important. I use them.
Because you sounded like it. I'm not going to lie. It was slightly flippant.
Look, they're important, but I don't know. It's very hard to make them sexy as far as marketing goes. And these are the kind of people who had dedicated their lives to it. So when they go, how am I going to write about a bridge in under 1,500 words? Yeah. And you're like, oh no, okay. So, and that's the times where it's really, really cool to go back and go, all right, let's take it back. And how can we break that apart? We're going and making it sexy. So they'll go, all right, give it people what it is they need initially, what it is that they could potentially want, and then give them options where they can do a deep dive into it. And that's the kind of stuff where you're generally talking to like professionals of the same caliber. You're talking to other organizations, and they're the kind of people who want those deep dive information. But your general audience isn't going to want to read 1,500 to 3,000 words on a bridge. So, as I said, love the passion. I'm all about it. But it's about tempering it for the masses. Say.
Very, very well said there.
Cute. Do you have any questions for me in the meantime before?
Oh, I'm sorry. You directing this podcast. Oh, my bad. Sorry to be holding up your time there, darling. No. I just wanted to hear basically what your topics were. And then if you have a wrap-up tip to pull it all together for people, that would be wonderful as well.
I do have a wrap-up tip.
It's something I said earlier.
And look, it's the kind of thing which we have mentioned along the way, but it's something to really kind of remember constantly. It's that you grow and change, your website should grow and change, but it's a tool in your arsenal. It's not going to be your be all and end all. It's not going to be like, yeah, I launched a website. Why is my business not successful? Like it's
done. Marketing sorted.
Yeah, that's marketing done. Like
time to work on those stages again. Yeah.
Yeah, time to start rocking out those bills. Yeah, no, that's not quite how it works. It's the kind of thing where it's evolutionary. So your website should be evolutionary, but also as a tool, it needs to be maintained. You need to be sharpening it. You need to be making sure it's oiled. It's well used so that way it actually works for you, because that's what tools do at the end of the day. They work to make your life easier. And that's what the website should do.
Oh, lovely. Awesome. No, that was perfect. Thank you so much, James. I pretty much could not agree with you more on all of that, but I agree with you. Like when I did the soundbite one, like going over those bits and pieces, I guess it was just to be a bit of a taste tester for people, because this stuff can get really heavy and feel complicated and everything, but it's really nice to do a deep dive. And especially with you, because I do think, like, while we agree on a lot of things, we also have different knowledge and different backgrounds. I mean, we kind of coming to the same conclusion, but approaching it almost from different ways, sort of thing. So it's just
exactly
cool to hear it in your words and stuff as well. So yeah, very much appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. I hope everyone else got as much out of it as I did. Make sure you're doing those soft turns, people. That's what today was all about, soft turns.
Exactly. You don't want to be going through washes constantly. Nobody has time for that.
It's the bane of my existence. Yeah, no, it's very, very high on my mind. Thank you. Thanks for joining me, James, and everyone else. Thanks for joining us as well. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Marketing and Margaritas. Find more free marketing tips, tricks, and laughs at rebelnation.com.au.